Happy Thursday morning, everybody. I am joined by David Samson, as always. David is so kind to join us every Thursday. He is the host of Nothing Personal with David Samson. Please follow him on Twitter at David P. Samson. It appears to be decision week with regards to Deshaun Watson, the NFL scandal that has honestly dominated the offseason. Hearings underway this week. We expect an announcement on the discipline that Deshaun Watson will face at any moment here, whether it be today or tomorrow. It kind of seems like a tailor-made Friday news dump to me, if this were as manicured a decision as many like to conspiracy theorize. Interesting developments in the CBA in that if this is appealed, it goes directly to Roger Goodell in some weird collectively bargained piece of off-field behavior discipline. Roger Goodell would kind of have to act like Deshaun Watson's attorney under an appeal. David, what can you tell me about the latest development in the CBA that has Roger Goodell not wanting to appeal whatsoever?
Well, he'd actually hear the appeal. So he wouldn't be Deshaun's attorney. He would actually be the one who's ruling on the appeal. So he can appeal to himself, or he can assign it to somebody else if he so chooses, if he doesn't want to be the one who actually hears it. It's sort of like Roger Goodell asking Daniel Snyder or to investigate himself, right? He can assign it to somebody else, but that somebody else is clearly going to do what he wants. But I need to go back to one thing, Mike, because you used a word, and I need a clarification. Maybe the audience does too. I appreciate when you say it's kind of me to join you. Do you only say kind when it's not a job? Like if I get paid to appear, is it still kind of me to appear, or is the kindness based on remuneration?
I believe the kindness is based on remuneration. Now, there is you do have some skin in the game in that you get promotion for your wildly popular podcast, Nothing Personal with David Samson. It's not exactly gratis. Like, you know what you're doing. The best way to grow a podcast is appear on other podcasts, and which better ones out there than this one right now. So while it's very kind of you, let's not act like there isn't a transaction happening here.
I would just like to point out that there's a complete transaction happening here. There's always been a transaction happening here. Kindness is not the word. I love the shows we do. I love having been with you guys for 20 years. But kindness is just simply not one of the adjectives that I would use to describe it. Though I thank you for thinking that it's kind of me to do. But no, there's no kindness here, Mike. It's just business. I just wanted you to know that.
That's odd. You're not taking the compliment. All right,
it's not a compliment. I think it's a misdirection. It's not apropos adjective. But back to Deshaun Watson, if you like, though I can talk about this all day. This is crazy, isn't it? First of all, the Friday news dump is because you and I are old, but you're young, so I don't know why you even know what a Friday news dump is. That doesn't exist anymore.
What do you mean? Last week we had the most legendary Friday news dump of all time,
but it didn't work. A Friday news dump doesn't get discussed.
They overturned Roe v. Wade. There are some stories that are probably too big to be brushed under the rug, but they tried their damnedest, didn't they?
Well, I believe that decision came out in the morning, did it not?
Yeah, and it was expected.
I'm almost positive, right? Yeah, and that's when they release opinions. So all I'm saying is that when I first started in this game, there was no internet. There was there were deadlines. Newspapers actually had deadlines. And what Friday News Dump meant is that you would release something that was too late to be in the paper, too late to be discussed on the news. So it has to be after the 11:20 sports, the local 11:20 sports, and too late when Sports Center would have the rundown would be complete. Right, so they're not going to break in with it. It's just going to be what it is. And it doesn't make the paper. When it does, it's the least read paper of the week. Now with social media, the right PR people working for teams and for leagues acknowledge there is no more Friday news dump because there's no difference in coverage. Every day is the same now. It's just Groundhog Day in the media. And what the Supreme Court did was not because they were trying to hide. The leak was because they were trying to prepare the country for what was going to happen. That's different. Releasing the actual opinion, that's how long it takes to get all the concurring opinions, the dissenting opinions, get them all written by the clerks, get them all approved by the justices, and then get them all released.
Okay. So let's talk about what is at hand for an independent judge and what's at stake for Roger Goodell. You're of the same school of thought that I am, that Roger Goodell It's already leaked out. You want to talk about the Roe v. Wade leak to try to prepare people for it. It's already been leaked out that the NFL really has very little interest in an appeal because it falls directly on Roger Goodell. Is there any... It's no longer independent if you're applying influence here, but if you want to avoid an appeals process, is there any way to get the message in that you'd rather something harsher than not, because to appeal this is not in the NFL's interest?
Well, this is being litigated on Twitter right now and in social media, right? You're getting things leaked by both sides. You're having people comparing, will he be punished the way Ben Roethlisberger was punished, or how about Kareem Hunt? Then you've got the other side where you hear Deshaun's camp saying, hey, no one punishes Jerry Jones or Daniel Snyder. So if you're not going to punish them for what they do, or Robert Kraft for getting the rub and tug, then how can you do anything to Deshaun Watson? And so both sides are putting it out there. But what's happening behind the scenes, there are no surprise witnesses. There's no surprise testimony. What's happening now is they're continuing to litigate behind the scenes on how they can come to a punishment, a suspension that both sides will walk away from, both Deshaun's side, the NFL side, the Cleveland Browns side. There is a complication with the Texans, which we can talk about, and the new lawsuit that implicates them and their enabling, which is a whole nother subject about what we do as organizations to enable our players who feel entitled as it is, who feel like they can break the law because there is no law in the clubhouse. But putting that aside, you've got to get an agreement between the Browns and the Watson camp and Roger Goodell, and I think that's what's happening right now.
All right, very quickly, let's run through a hypothetical scenario. Hypothetically speaking, the NFL comes down with something that's harsher than the Cleveland Browns anticipated when they were doing their due diligence, air quotes, and deciding which pieces of their draft capital they were willing to part with. He's suspended for a season. They didn't expect that. Now, in civil lawsuits, the Houston Texans are named as a defendant. Is there a scenario here where the Browns can turn to the NFL and say, hey, no fair, can we get one of our assets back?
And so the question that you'd ask in the law is, was there any sort of fraudulent inducement to enter into a contract? So did the Browns hear something from the Texans that was given to them saying, hey, listen, Cleveland, he didn't really do this. Like, we know for sure there's no other civil suits coming. Everything's totally fine. Don't you worry. And we know he's only going to be suspended for 3 games. We have it more than upon information and belief. We have a piece of writing here, and they forged Roger Goodell's name on it. And it's a letter from Roger Goodell saying Deshaun's going to get 3 games. Then he gets 17 games. Then the Browns could say, hey, the rules aren't fair. Right? We were induced into this trade, but that's not really what happened. The Browns knew exactly. Look at the structure of his contract, for crying out loud, Meatloaf. The contract was done with the anticipation that he was going to be suspended for a year, and anything better than that is just a bonus.
I'm almost quite literally playing devil's advocate here, but Andrew Berry does have a resume that includes doing that to a lot of salary structures. Light on 1 year to maintain cap flexibility. While I'm with you, I do think that they totally negotiated the year 1 part of the of his massive contract to mitigate his potential losses. To bump up against that would be to hold up previous examples of when Andrew Berry did backloaded contracts in the past. It's not uncommon in the NFL.
But I thought he got a pretty big signing bonus, didn't he, Mike?
He did. Can the NFL recoup? No.
Nope.
There we go.
That's paid. And by the way, that's money that he has now.
Well, the NFL, I guess the Browns could motion to recoup the signing bonus and it would get litigated. There is examples of that. Did that happen with Trevor Bauer and the Dodgers?
Because he was unable to perform. The signing bonus is generally to give the services that you are contracted to give for the period in which you're supposed to give them. So if you have a 3-year deal with the Dodgers, you're getting a signing bonus in theory to pitch for them for 3 years. But if you get injured or you do something that causes you not to be able to pitch, then you go to the wording of the contract, which is, did you do any of the prohibited activities? Did you violate any of the clauses? That's the way you get your signing bonus money back. We got that back from a player who did drugs right? We wanted our money back. We were like, you stink. You can't pitch for us, and you're a drug addict. And we paid you because you said you were clean, and you're not.
This was a Jeff Allison thing. Yeah, because I was going to write back. I was going to ask you. I'm like, didn't you try to recoup a signing bonus once in your career?
Not try. Got it.
You got it.
No, because we paid for something we didn't get. Now we continued to treat him. He continued to be looked at by our team psychologist. We did not turn our back on him at all, and he happens to be doing great now. But clearly, we did not get what we bargained for. And all of that is changed in baseball now with all the new rules around the draft and the physicals, all the things that Scott Boras didn't want, where there's sort of federally mandated physicals and ways to put your fingers on and hands on players before the draft, which agents don't like to have happen. But when you lie, that was the whole thing with the Padres, Mike, when we traded for a guy and there was a whole set of medical records they didn't give us.
Wasn't that Luis Castillo?
No, that was close. It was a guy named Colin Ray, and we traded Luis Castillo for the Kai Colin Ray. We got Castillo back and then traded him for Dan Straley.
Yeah.
That's how that worked.
Castillo's turned out to be a really good player, coincidentally, just through a gem.
He's a great pitcher. There's no question. And the year that we made that trade, I want to say was 2000 and I'd have to go back, 2016 maybe? I think we may have made that after Jose died, trying to hold on for another year when we brought in Edinson Volquez and still had Stan Yelich and Ozuna and said if Luis Castillo ends up being a great pitcher in 2022 or 2020, that I can't even picture that far. We want to see if we can win with the core we have now. That's called mortgaging your future for your present when you're trying to hang on. And that's the separator between a good front office and a bad one, is knowing when to hang on and when not to. And we never understood the difference.
All right. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to talk about the Deshaun Watson thing. So let's switch gears to what's happening in the NBA. NBA offseason is almost as good as the playoffs. In fact, this year it's probably better than the playoffs. One of the things that I found interesting last year was that the Miami Heat, although they'll tell you they didn't get punished for tampering, because tampering tampering as the company, let me put the company line out there. Tampering is when the organization reaches directly out to the player and tampers. What they got pinged with, what the Bulls got pinged with, was reaching out to somebody in the camp and not necessarily the player. Therefore, it's not your classic example of tampering.
Give me a break.
We got the propaganda out there. Hashtag Heat culture.
Why are you doing that? Is that kind of you to do? That's very kind of you to do that, because you're not being paid, are you?
Because I was flippantly calling it tampering, as everybody was, and they were quick to clarify. I spoke to the Miami Heat, and they're like, it's not tampering. They don't actually say tampering in the release that announced the punishment.
What does it mean that the organization reaches out? Does an organization have a voice? Is it a person?
I got a Zoom call from Bernie the mascot, actually.
Is that the organization?
Yeah, people would be surprised to know that he wears many hats over there. But when that happened, and this surrounded the Kyle Lowry thing, and there's plenty of reasons why, honestly, that there would be a tampering charge, because if you'd remember, the Miami Heat tried to acquire Kyle Lowry at the deadline. You kind of have to know if Kyle Lowry's going to re-up, if he wants to be with you, if you're going to give up some assets. So these conversations happened months previously. It was actually
in every sport.
BS. Yeah,
in every sport.
Yeah, it was kind of BS that he got pinged with it, but regardless.
And the teams know, right? Yeah. So when you're making a trade and you're trading away a veteran player, you want to get as much back from the other team as possible. And to get the big haul, you need to make sure that that player is going to stay with that team. Because if you have a player for a year, you give up less than if you have the player for 6 years. It's just math. So we not only tampered, we encouraged tampering of our players. We encouraged tampering other teams' players, because everybody tampers. It's sort of like cheating and sign stealing, right? No, it's saying the quiet part out loud. Tampering is necessary for the game. So I never understood, and I had this conversation with Bud Selig. I never had it with Rob Manfred. The conversation was, why is tampering against the rules? What are we trying to protect against? Like, what's the object of the rule? And the object is, what I was told, it is not good for the fans to believe that their player wants to play somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And my response to that is, but there's another player that you're getting who wants to play with you. So you're giving your. What do you mean?
Not all the time.
Every trade, there's someone who can't wait to play for you.
Yeah, well, not always. There's plenty of examples of people that get traded to places that they don't want to get traded to.
Oh, that's it. I'm talking about when there's an extension that needs to happen. Oh my God, when you trade people in the second year of their deal, we traded Mark Burley. He didn't want to go to Toronto.
Yeah, I'm sure you got some players that had expiring contracts that were like, please buy me out. I don't want to be here in this football stadium.
Yeah, there's no buyouts, right? They would just want to be released.
Yeah,
because in baseball, when you're released, you still get paid. It's one of the great deals of all time, right? People feel badly for Albert Pujols when the Angels released him. I'm not sure why they would feel badly. He still gets every dollar of his contract, and then he gets to sign with anyone he wants. And he went home to St. Louis.
The point that I was trying to make was about the Philadelphia 76ers, but I'm going to hit pause on that because during your time as team president, there were a lot of big names that hit the waiver wire that nobody put a claim on, that were really good players that were still producing, but they had an insane cap number. What's the closest you ever came to putting a waiver claim? I think during your time as team president, Manny Ramirez hit the waiver wire at one point, and he went unclaimed because people would have to pay him his entire salary. Alex Rodriguez was talked about as a potential answer, and you actually had some pressure from fans that wanted to see that, given that he was a hometown guy.
Forget fans. How about Jeffrey?
Yeah.
How about the fact that Jeffrey was talking to A-Rod? Are you kidding me? Fan pressure
story.
I could care less about. The pressure on A-Rod was this. It was, David, you're not very good at selling tickets. The team isn't winning the right number of games. How do you not think that A-Rod on the Marlins would be good for our fan base and good for our team? And I said, because he would ruin the clubhouse. He can't play baseball anymore. And you might as well just have him be the president of the team or be a face of a franchise off the field because he's not additive on the field. And he said, well, what about all of these home runs? And he was going after milestones then. This was back when he had not yet hit the milestone home runs that he was trying to hit. What was the number? 700 or 650? Or he was going for a major number. Of course, I blanked it out completely. And we talked about how we'd monetize that. And I did a spreadsheet about what we would gain from Alex Rodriguez, like what we could sell, all the different bases and the uniform and the tickets for games. We could arrange it so it happens at home and all of this crap. And it still didn't add up to possibly a fraction of what he was owed. Because when a player is put through waivers, you have to pay their entire salary. When a player clears waivers, that player's a free agent. You only pay that player the minimum salary. So at the minimum salary, A-Rod is cheap. At his contract that he signed, he is outrageously expensive and not worth it. To me, of course, the math was even at the minimum, he wasn't worth it.
He was chasing 700 because he finished with 696. But isn't there something on baseball? Because I felt like Manny Ramirez got put on waivers. No one put a claim, and he was still property of the Boston Red Sox. There is a waiver process.
Yeah, every player who's overpaid.
Really?
Yeah, just so you know, in baseball, it's supposed to be secretive. And this gets leaked to the media every year, and it's one of the rules in baseball is you are not allowed to disclose when you put players through trade waivers. Trade waivers are something that happen after the trade deadline, where you are securing the rights to a player that if that player gets claimed, then that player goes to that team. If that player does not get claimed, that's the end, and that player is on your team. So there was a ton of strategy in whether or not you claim players because you can block them. Because if you claim a player on these type of waivers, then either you get that player or that player can be traded to you, but he can't be traded anywhere else. Okay. That's the important part of the rule.
That's unique to baseball?
Yes, but you can get caught. Now, we gave the San Francisco Giants Cody Ross on trade waivers. I got a call from Larry Baer saying, do not give him to us. We don't want the Dodgers to get him. And I said, are you out of your mind? He's owed $4 million. We're out of the race. You're about to get him, Larry. He said, I don't have the budget for him. I said, Larry, why did you claim him? He said, because there's no way you were going to let him go, and we couldn't allow the Dodgers to take him. We don't have the budget. I said, Larry, he's about to be a Giant. He was furious. it actually impacted our relationship. And it only got better when he would hit the home run off Roy Halladay. And I texted him. This was back when Cody Ross performed well in the playoffs for the Giants. I texted Larry Baer. I said, "You like him now?" Question mark. It ended up working out, but there's a lot of things that go on, but you're not allowed to tell the player. So we would not tell players when they were put on these waivers, but somehow there was a leak at Major League Baseball because it's done through Major League Baseball. And then the players would find out and they'd get all pissed and they'd want to know who's claiming them, how many teams claim them. It was just a cluster, Mike.
Well, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Let's circle back to the point that I wanted to make. During the Kyle Lowry situation, that was great. I shouldn't have said that.
That's so mean.
I like our sidetracks, though. Like, I called out the sidetrack. I was like, I'm going to hit pause on the 76ers point that I wanted to make, because the 76ers were one of the teams interested in Kyle Lowry's services and one of the frustrated parties that he ended up going to Miami, and they alleged tampering, and they protect the teams that put in these claims, but there have been reports done, and Philadelphia was bothered by it. Since then, Philadelphia, here I am to tell you, tampered with James Harden, and very clearly, given all the reports surrounding PJ Tucker, appear to be dealing directly with PJ Tucker and his camp right now as he considers a move away from Miami. My question is, the gall.
The gall of who?
The Philadelphia 76ers and Daryl
Why is
Morey.
that?
How dare
Why
they?
is that gall?
Hypocrites.
Well, hold on. Are you being righteous?
Yes, and I'm just being a fan.
Okay.
How dare they?
You can't argue with the fan.
Now you tamper? Right? Whoa, wait a second. We couldn't talk to Kyle Lowry, but you can talk to James Harden, you can talk to PJ Tucker. How dare? Maybe we should file some charges, huh? Maybe we should do that.
They're doing more than talking to him, right? They've made him an offer.
Yeah, it seems as though he's going there, and
but the Heat know.
That's been interesting to see on Twitter, to see a lot of Heat fans reconciling with a player choosing a little bit more money, but leaving this franchise for Philadelphia. Yeah.
Oh my God! Wait, what did you say? The player chose what? Say that again.
I'm not going to say it again, because surely there has to be something else going on.
Oh,
no one chooses Philadelphia over Miami.
Oh, for sure not. He'd rather be in Miami because he likes playing in front of Alonzo and Pat, for sure. He loves that, and he loves Jimmy, and he loves the whole package here.
Yeah.
The nightlife, going to the clubs.
Yeah, that he does.
Come on.
Yeah.
Do you know that he would go play in Oklahoma City?
PJ Tucker would not play at Oklahoma City.
Okay.
At 37 years old, he would not play at Oklahoma City.
For what's Philly offering him again? Was it 30 over 3?
I think it comes out to 33, and I think Miami's not willing to go full mid-level exception, so I think it comes out to like 27.
I can't imagine why not.
I mean, he's 37 years old. He's going to be 38.
Right.
The contract, a basketball player playing into his 40s, it's not going to be it's not going to be a good contract by the end of it. The argument is, in the NBA, these bad contracts towards the end of their lifespan have some bizarre value to them. I think it's a little bit too much money, but a lot of people on Heat Twitter are very surprised that after the taxes work out, it's basically the same amount of money. Why don't you love us more than your old teammates and executive partners over in Houston, now in Philadelphia?
So one of the things that I would say to you is that the players are not paying attention to Twitter, neither are the executives at all. And
sure they are. That's where they leverage everything.
It's very no. They're not paying attention to fans and their sort of feelings like, oh my God, we have to bring Tucker back now because people on Twitter are upset. But I would like to point out that you said something that actually was quite prescient and interesting when you were talking about the back end of these contracts have some bizarre value, I think you put it. That is an interesting part of the NBA CBA, except the union has now fed you the Kool-Aid and you're drinking it, hook, line, and sinker. Bad contracts never have a value. Every executive would tell you, I'd much rather not have to unload a bad contract than have a bad contract, but have a system with which I can unload it. That is not a nuanced difference. But what the union would tell you is that this is great. Sign 37-year-old PJ Tucker, give him a third year, and in the third year, we've got the mechanism where you can trade that crap for another piece of crap. You switch crap, and then everyone's happy with different crap. But you know what? Your crap becomes their crap, and their crap becomes your crap, and that's still crap.
So the tampering in the NBA isn't actually a problem. All the teams benefit from it. The problem is the optics of tampering because of the the clientele, the fans, nobody wants this message out there. No one wants to believe that it's a real thing. So why doesn't the NBA just abolish their tampering problem by making it okay to talk immediately following the season? I don't understand the need for the optics of a non-tampering period.
The theory there is that the leagues want to give teams the best possible chance to retain their players. And they will make rules that will always benefit. It's why in the NBA cap, right, there is the advantage always to the existing team that can sign for the extra year, the extra amount of money. And that is for the sole reason of giving an advantage to a team to keep its players. I never fully understood that because I'm not sure that fans are as loyal to the back of the jersey as you would say. I think they're far more loyal to the winning. And but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe fans don't want to win. Maybe that's the issue with the Dolphins, why everyone loves the Dolphins. They don't win, but they sign a lot of guys. I don't know. I've never been able to figure that out.
I think people like the Dolphins just because it's NFL football and the NFL is king. And I think you've even seen around town during your time here, just from when you started with the Marlins, when you were sharing the same building, the general interest and passion and devotion, those guys owned this market for so long. They were the only pro game in town for so long. Then younger franchises came in, and the Panthers, Heat, Marlins, all of them made it to the championship finals in their respective sports. Two of them actually won the whole damn thing. And little by little, you started seeing the prestige and monopoly that the Dolphins had in this town whittle away. It's still very much a pro football town, but let the Hurricanes come chug along. Let the Miami Heat win another championship here. And that monopoly will slowly dissipate into free market. And the fans are going to make their voice. You see what's happened in Tampa. The NFL doesn't necessarily have to be king when it's in a market. The Bucs won a Super Bowl and have Tom Brady, and that is a lightning town.
That's a what, Mike? I lost you there.
It is a lightning town.
You think Tampa Bay is a lightning town?
I know Tampa Bay is a lightning town.
Are the Tampa Bay Lightning worth more? Is the team worth more than the Buccaneers?
That's not how you do it.
Which team's worth more?
You don't do that on valuation. You do that on which team captivates the hearts and imaginations of a fan base more. And I'm telling you, in Tampa, it's a Tampa Bay Lightning more than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So if we did a study and said, you're going to lose one of your teams, Tampa, you either lose the Buccaneers or the Lightning, you think the Lightning prevail in that?
Yes. Amongst sports fans, amongst hardcore sports fans that like both teams, I think they choose the Tampa Bay Lightning over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you could believe it.
I don't know what you mean by hardcore fans who like both teams. I'm asking for Tampa. You have to put the poll to all people in Tampa, don't you?
Here's what I mean by that. It's because I think casual sports fans or people that don't really have much time for sports, they're more inclined to like NFL football. But I mean like the sports fan who you're competing over actual dollars. These people show up to our games in Tampa Bay. I think they'd pick the Tampa Bay Lightning over the Tampa Bay Bucks.
All right, how about this? What if we polled only season ticket holders of both the Lightning and the Buccaneers and sponsors, the people in the marketing department of the companies who sponsor both teams, and the poll is, one of these teams is leaving the market. Which team would you prefer to leave, the Buccaneers or the Lightning? You still think they say Lightning?
Man, that's a real house divided situation for the good Greek. I'm going to go with Lightning still.
Wow. Okay, I'll take the other side, and I think we prevail. We can do a quick poll on Twitter. We can do something trying to see if people would answer and how they would answer. I don't think there's a chance
only vote
in hell.
If you're a season ticket holder in both for both
Correct.
teams in the Tampa Bay market. I'm sure it'll be easy to pull that poll off.
I just think that your point is that hockey is nowhere. My point is hockey is nowhere near the NFL in any market, right? It doesn't matter. And I'm outside of Canada. There's no market where I think hockey holds a candle to the NFL or even to the NBA in any market where there is both. Of course, there have to be both. Like you can't say the Green Bay Packers or the Milwaukee Bucks versus Green Bay Packers. In Green Bay, everyone chooses the Packers over the Bucks. In Milwaukee, everyone chooses the Bucks over Green Bay. Different cities.
I'm sure I'm also sure that there are ratings that might embarrass me in this, but I'm telling you, here's my straw poll: flags hanging outside of homes, no matter the season. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm telling you.
Now now that has become some sort of socioeconomic poll, which is we're not doing, right.
I've done boots on the ground reporting on this. I've asked that question: whose town is it? And they tell me it's the Lightnings.
Wow. Okay. You would not be hired by any politician to do any polling.
Right. I'm a man about town.
Proffered like that. No, you're
not. When I go to Burns, and I ask for the Chateaubriand.
That's the man about town. You're going to the most expensive steakhouse in Tampa, where generally only the top 1%ers ever go, and tourists who are able to charge it to their companies go, and you're asking them who they prefer.
Yes.
And you're a man about town. You're a man of the people.
That's the only place I go in Tampa. If I'm not going to a sporting event, I go from my hotel. I hold my breath the entire Uber ride over to Burns. I let my breath go. I eat some food. I drink some nice wine. Hold my breath. Back to the hotel, wishing I were in Miami. That's my Tampa experience every time.
Have you ever done the Burns Mons Venus double feature?
No, not the same day. That's a lot. Meat sweats. That's just a bad situation.
Wait, I didn't say what order.
Well, also, I didn't say what kind of meat sweats. Moving on, David Samson, Baz Luhrmann, who doesn't do a lot of projects, just came out with a new movie. I don't know if you've gotten to see Elvis. I'm a big fan of Baz Luhrmann. He is a divisive filmmaker because of the way he shoots his movies. He doesn't do a lot. He's done Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, which I know is one of our shared favorites, The Great Gatsby, and Australia, which is the one that was a passion project for him because he's Australian, used Australian actors. That's the one that was the biggest critical and commercial flop, but that was a vanity project for Baz Luhrmann, and now he has trotted out with Elvis. I wish you saw Elvis so we could talk about that because I think Austin Butler is phenomenal in this movie, but I want to talk to you about Baz Luhrmann.
Yes, could you tell me what you're saying again, why he's controversial in your mind?
Because his style of filmmaking, the herky-jerky, fast-paced, breakneck pace in some films, especially in the most recent one, Elvis, at the very start, it's jarring. He's got a very jarring style compared to traditional cinema. And with
that doesn't make him controversial, though.
He is controversial because what he did with Romeo and Juliet, taking one of Shakespeare's plays and setting in modern times, but keeping the original Shakespeare dialogue, and what he did with Moulin Rouge, it's a period piece, but they're using contemporary pop music. It's a I don't know how controversial you could be when discussing art and just playing around with timelines, but he is a hot button issue, a hot button filmmaker for a lot of people, a lot of cinephiles alike, because of his very distinct style. Why are you making this seem like a hot take? This was just a transition so we could actually talk about Baz Luhrmann. You disagree with this? You think everyone likes Baz Luhrmann, and he's not at all a divisive figure.
Yeah, I'm not making it a hot take. Don't misunderstand that. I think that's the funny thing about our industry, where when someone says something, is that a hot take? Is that not a hot take? No, not at all. I question why people call certain people controversial when they are doing pieces that are you call them passion projects. You have to earn the right to do a passion project. Baz Luhrmann has had a career that enabled him to get Australia greenlit. He does movies in a way that enables him to do a film like Elvis, which of course I will see, because there will not be a Baz Luhrmann movie that I will not see, because I love him and his movie making. But I think that he gets dismissed so often because of the point of view that you just gave. And I think there's a whole group of people who are missing his movies because they hear people say, oh, he's jerky, controversial, Australia wasn't good. I can't wait to see Elvis. I don't know why anyone would think otherwise.
You know, David, sometimes we're just not on the same page, because you push back on me when I said he's a bit of a divisive filmmaker, and then you just stamped your approval on my take by saying that the audience kind of feels this way about him. But I'm not going to get bogged down there. I loved Moulin Rouge.
I didn't say the audience.
Okay. All right. We're just not on the same page.
Hold on. That's okay, because I think that you're breaking up every other word. So I hear just every word. I don't then responding.
All right, we'll make
sometimes miss.
Well, Witty, we gotta make an edit here. He's already alerted me to. You can unmic yourself. Do I need to move into a different room? Is my internet spotty? What are you experiencing, Witty, as you're moderating this right now? Because I can see David laboring a little bit, and I can always move closer to my router. Mhm.
Yes. Yes. And he freezes, and then I'm hearing what he says after he says it. So it makes it harder for us to converse in the way that we do that is funny. And sort of the pacing is off today because I'm having a hard time hearing things as he's saying them. At least that's my view of it. You may not be feeling that, but that's how I feel about the show right now. Okay, good. If you're the producer, if it's not impacting how you're engaging with the show, then I'm happy.
I'm just happy that it's coming. I'm happy that it's coming out all right because I do feel David struggling. We don't have the same type of chemistry that we normally have. So it's all data, right? I don't think that this is a Zencaster thing. I think this is a mic get closer to the router thing while using Zencaster. I've had a bunch of Zooms today and they've gone without issue. On my screen, his video is often blurry, and that's usually a big red flag that my signal's not strong enough.
By the way, that's how you are on my screen. Is you're blurry, and then you freeze, and then you move like slowly when you do your arm. Like, you know what that happens?
Yeah, all data points. I will make sure to move a little closer to the router. It's just the acoustics in here are better, and given the COVID situation that I got in the home, I want to make sure that I'm confined to my office, knowing that my daughter was coming home. But okay. Well, thank you for battling through that. Thank you, Witty, for
of course. Let's pick it up. I'm sorry to have interrupted.
No, it's all right. Do you know where you were?
I never know where I am.
when I stopped him, Witty, were you listening? I got too caught up in trying to get you involved here. All right. All right. Well, okay. I know how to transition out of that. All right. And 3, 2, 1. I don't want to get bogged down on how controversial Baz Luhrmann is or isn't as a filmmaker, David. I went to see Elvis because, number one, I love Elvis Presley. Number two, I love Baz Luhrmann. So this was right up my alley. And I will say, in seeing the reviews from critics and audience alike, it's the same old story as it is always with Baz Luhrmann. There's a lot of people that just can't get past the pacing at the very start. And I will admit, even at the start of this film, for a Baz Luhrmann picture, it moves really fast and probably a little too fast. But then when it finally settles in and tells a story that it wants to tell about Elvis in Vegas, I think it really settles in, finds a nice groove. I think Austin Butler, who played Elvis Presley in this film, who was in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, who's been in a bunch of tween shows, Nickelodeon and Disney alike. He is an absolute superstar. He should get nominated. I can't wait for you to see this film because I think the thing that holds this film back really is Tom Hanks's performance, who usually is very on the money with his performances. He's usually pitch perfect, but I think he overplayed this one and it distracts from the film. I cannot wait for you to watch this. Austin Butler actually sings on this soundtrack. I don't know if you've checked out the soundtrack. I made sure to listen to the soundtrack before I went into the movie, and I was stunned at how well he was able to mimic Elvis Presley. Can't wait for you to watch this one, David.
Do you know that Jeff Conine and a bunch of players did a music album?
Did you know that album? Jeff Conine has an album?
Released an actual album of players who sang actual songs and sounded unbelievable. Not anything like what they would actually sound absent machines and various pieces of technology. So I'm not being cynical regarding his imitation of Elvis. I am only pointing out that you can make people sound like a lot of things with machinery. I would not expect him to do a live tour.
Yeah, well, he did a cover of Plush by Stone Temple Pilots, Jeff Conine did?
He certainly did.
Oh, I got to listen to that.
Awesome. It's awesome.
I love Stone Temple Pilots. I was a
And
big
trust
Scott
me,
Weiland
he
guy.
can't sing.
He can't?
Go to the album. There's a full album of players doing these songs. I don't know what it's called. It was available it was like a 1-800 number. You could buy it like back in the 1-800 like 242-6969. Operator standing by for $9.99 plus $4.99 a month, and you'll get the next album every month until you cancel. So Tom Hanks, his performance is not being lauded, and I cannot allow this show to go by without. I have to tell you something I did this week that I had not done, and I'm so excited about it. So if you will indulge me, Tom Hanks is in a movie called Castaway. Yeah. Castaway is one of my all-time favorite movies.
You have Wilson behind you for those watching on YouTube.
Now, that Wilson is from Amazon. That's a $9.99 commercial grade Wilson. I have him in every studio. I have him everywhere I go. Wilson. There was an auction last week of the real Wilson. I don't mean like the Amazon Wilson. I'm talking Wilson, the one with the branches in him from the end of the movie, and it went for $180,000.
And you won it.
I did not.
Did you bid on it?
However, there's a possibility that on my set, when I get back from Africa, will be 2 pieces of memorabilia from Castaway that will bring me to tears that I was able to acquire them in an auction setting.
Let me guess. All right. Let me guess. If you're not getting Wilson from that movie, the pieces of memorabilia I'd want would be the FedEx package. And I'm going to say the ice skate.
Okay. I'm blushing. I'm smiling. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you cannot see my reaction to this. Folks, this is not rehearsed. This has not been discussed. He had no idea I was going to bring this up. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, we haven't spoken about this. I had no idea. I was trying to ask you about Elvis, so I had no idea you were going to take it here to movie memorabilia.
And we've not discussed Castaway or any memorabilia I may have bid on. Is that correct?
No, I didn't even know that you collected memorabilia from movies.
Were you aware that I have, as part of one of my tattoos, the gold wings from the FedEx box?
I was, but that's only because you slept over my house at one time.
I have the FedEx box. The actual FedEx box.
The one with the wings painted on it.
With the wings on it. That will be on my set, and I didn't stop there. The skate was available, but it was a new skate, and I wanted the skate that was used, that he used to cut rope, that he used as part of everything he did. So give me another choice.
Who, from Castaway, another choice.
What would be the most meaningful, important thing other than Wilson in the life of Tom Hanks in Castaway?
The raft?
Good one. How about the pocket watch with the picture of Helen Hunt?
Yeah, you got a pocket watch picture of Helen Hunt.
Not A. I have, and I bought, and I'm so happy. Like it's art to me. So you asked, do I collect memorabilia? I collect things that are meaningful to me that I like to look at. So if I buy a piece of art, I do it because not as an allocation of assets. I do it because I love living with it. I don't buy stuff. It's like my ring, my World Series ring I look at every day, and there are people who keep it in a vault. Like what? So you can die with it in a vault? It's ridiculous. So any piece of memorabilia I have, like you can sort of see it on my set here. Over my left shoulder is Harold Crick's hospital gown from Stranger Than Fiction. The actual hospital gown right there. I don't know if you can see that. It's normally not in the picture.
I never knew what that was.
That's Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell wore that. He played Harold Crick in Stranger Than Fiction. At the end of the movie, he's in the hospital having been run over by the bus and not died. And that's the hospital gown he wore. And I have certificates of authenticity from the studio, the whole thing. But it doesn't matter. It's not the money. It's not for my kids. My kids will sell it all, right? When I die, they could care less. They have no attachment to this. Basically, what I did is I added 2 pieces to a collection that my kids will sell when I croak. And I will get however many years in front of me of unbelievable enjoyment living with these 2 pieces of art that I now have.
That's great. I can't wait to see those. That's really cool, David. When you go to these auctions for movie memorabilia, it's probably all done on the internet. But I would like a scenario in which you have the paddle in your hand and you're getting outbid by Darren Rovell occasionally.
I'm not a ticket stub guy.
No, well,
right? Like,
let me
he's
ask
a
you,
check
how
guy.
much
He's
do you
a
like the
ticket stub
civil
and
rights
check guy.
movement? How much do you like the civil rights movement, and do you collect any of the celebrated merchandise and memorabilia from the civil rights movement?
Yeah, there's no question that I generate what I like and what I'm proud of and what I know about by what I buy. So no, my buys are actually emotionally based, not investment based. Right, I buy things like Radar's teddy bear. I didn't buy it as an investment. It's not like Bouillon or GameStop. It is something that was a part of my life that I look at every day, and it brings me back to a time where I smile. And what the hell's wrong with smiling every day? And it doesn't have to be things that are expensive. I have little things on my desk. Like when my grandfather died, all the cousins fought over everything valuable, right? It was like the gold rush. Everyone in there grabbing this. I want this piece of jewelry and that watch and this. I wanted a little piece of wood. I'm going to stand up in the middle of the show, which I really shouldn't do, but I have to, Mike.
I can't tell. Short joke.
Okay. Oh, are you serious?
Got him.
That's horrible. This says Harry E. Sampson. My grandfather had this on his desk when he worked, and it was his name. It is worth maybe 75 cents. And guess who was able to get it? Because none of my cousins wanted it, because it's firewood. But I look at it every day on my desk.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know how we got to that, but
memorabilia.
You did a
and
short joke.
Darren Rovell. Did you also get confused when Darren Rovell claimed to have an autographed NAACP membership card of Rosa Parks? When for it to be a membership card, it had to be signed, and it wasn't really an autograph; it was just an NAACP card.
Well, but a check that's signed by someone,
that's not autographed.
That's their signature.
Right.
What he meant is it has their signature.
Right, but he said it was autographed. I'm like, no, that's just a membership card. It's like saying I got an autographed driver's license.
No. But hold on. A driver's license doesn't have an original signature on it.
No, but the NAACP membership card has to have your signature on it from when Rosa Parks had one. So it wasn't autographed. It was just a membership card.
I assume she actually signed that card, though.
Yeah, when she applied for membership for the NAACP, she didn't sign it as memorabilia. It wasn't an autograph. It's just an NAACP card.
But you said a driver's license. A driver's license is a picture of your signature. I assume that a card like this would actually be her actual signature.
Yeah, well, our chemistry just isn't great, I guess. I was making a joke at his expense, but I forget that you guys are old buds, you and Darren Rovell.
He sent me Tom Cruise's mission statement.
Yeah? Did it have to self-destruct after 5 seconds?
No, the mission statement from Jerry Maguire.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ethan Hunt's.
No, it was Jerry Maguire's mission statement from the start of. There was actually Cameron Crowe wrote an actual mission statement for Jerry Maguire when he's typing all that during his epiphany that night before meeting Renee Zellweger on the flight. So Darren Rovell has a very interesting collection. You know, that's funny. I don't know how he has 2 million followers. It doesn't grow. It doesn't decrease. I was just late to Twitter, and I just was not. I don't know how to do it. Right? I don't know how I'm at 34,000 and he's at 2 million. I guess I just got a very late start or something.
David Samson just subtly alleged server farms with regards to Darren Rovell. He just put that out there. David,
wait, I don't even know what that is. So how could I have alleged that? What's David, a server farm?
Every week you give us a review.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to go to the movie theater to watch Elvis. Shame on you as a big Baz Luhrmann guy. I would love to hear your review. I guess I'm going to have to be patient there. But this week, what is your review?
I watched something that I really hope we have a few minutes to talk about, and it was the new Norm Macdonald special on Netflix. Did you happen to see Norm Macdonald, Nothing Special?
I did, David, and I found it to be a really beautiful experience. I found it to be a really... Hey, all right, I'll pick up right there. I did, David, and I found it to be a really beautiful experience.
I was so here's what happened. Norm Macdonald during COVID actually recorded a comedy special sitting down the way you and I are right now, and basically spoke into a microphone, into a camera without a studio audience, and went through an entire set. And it was the last time before his death that he recorded anything comedic. And it was brilliant because it is so hard to talk to just a camera, as you very well know, without having an audience, which gives life and oxygen to a comedian. And he was dying, and it was COVID, and he was able to talk about things in a way that just showed how brilliant he was. And then as a bonus, a bunch of comedians, including Adam Sandler and Dave Chappelle and David Letterman and Conan O'Brien, and was it Megan Mullally or Molly Shannon?
Molly
Shannon. They were on a couch watching this, and it was also David Spade. And that was the room in a circle. They were watching the show and then commenting on it after, and they had a whole discussion about Norm Macdonald's life and how important he was in all of their lives. And it's made me think about Phil Hartman a lot. An example of people who have died before they should have died and have not sort of the young, tragic drug death. Like, so I'm differentiating Chris Farley, John Belushi, right, from the Phil Hartman, Norm Macdonald side, right? The people who died differently, a little older. And it made me miss Norm Macdonald. So if you know who that is, watch the special. If you don't, do some research, learn about Norm Macdonald, and then watch the special, and your time will not be wasted.
Does it all in one sitting. I do think that the first half was far better than the second half, and even it was cool to see that the comedians actually had pretty much the same exact takeaway. But all of it, even when it's not laugh out loud funny, it still just totally captures your attention. You hang on every word just because he's an unreal talent. He tells some very dangerous jokes, and he tells them better than anybody else can. And he shows off in like one final moment that, oh, you know how Chappelle and Ricky Gervais all try to walk up to the line to find out exactly where it is, and they almost always go over that line. Norm Macdonald, in his final comedic act, walks right up to the line and shines a whole light on what comedians are or at least arguing that they're trying to do with it. And I thought it was just a masterclass. The fact that he does it all in one sitting, the fact that you hear a dog barking and a phone ring, and it textualizes these beautiful human moments of Norm Macdonald in his final months here on Earth. It was a really beautiful experience, and to see his friends weigh in on the special afterwards, and just to actually see the smiles wash across their faces when they talk about him, lets you know exactly how adored he was in the world of comedy and by his friends.
Didn't it remind you, won't it, when you look back on it, let's say you watch it in 10 years, won't it bring you right back to COVID?
It will.
Like, that's what I kept thinking while watching it. Like, this was done in the middle of COVID, and the isolation that we all felt. I felt he didn't have a set, right? He was just with a microphone with like a white background in the middle of his living room. And I just felt it brought me back to quarantine. It brought me back to where we were only 2 years ago. And it had this aura of disbelief, almost this dystopian-like quality that we lived through that. And he's captured it. And again, I want to reiterate, there was no audience.
Yeah.
None. It was just a camera.
We're gonna have almost instant nostalgia when it comes to quarantine and lockdowns, because it was so of a time. All entertainment took on this look. It's going to be as distinguishable as the 1970s were in terms of aesthetic, in terms of how unkempt people looked, as their corners of their faces were all in screens. That's why, personally, I know you collect movie memorabilia now, and you revealed to the audience your latest acquisitions. I started hogging up 2020 sports merchandise, anything that had 2020, because I wanted to remember people that won titles during these unprecedented circumstances, because I want to remember it. I think it'll be cool. I think there's going to be plenty of 2020 parties when we get older, but also I think there's going to be a hell of a market for this stuff in a few years. Like the Masters 2020 hat, I think would fetch a pretty penny, because the Masters hat always does.
Can we go through? Was it the Dodgers, the Lakers, the Lightning, and the Buccaneers?
Yes.
Did I go 4 for 4 on that?
Yeah. That's really impressive.
And did the Masters? I thought the Masters didn't happen.
No, the Masters got pushed into November.
So it did happen in 2020, just later.
Yeah, I believe Dustin Johnson won that one. I have to look that up because that'd be pretty impressive.
But you collect it for money?
Champions.
Are you collecting it for money or for emotion?
Emotion. I don't think I'd ever sell it. Number one, I just don't have the energy to actually sell something like that online. It's a whole to-do. But
well, your daughter will.
Yeah, probably. It'll be a lot easier than that. And I could just regale times of, like, you remember eBay? It was a whole thing. I had to buy shipping popcorn. I had to go to shipping stores to send beanbags in the early days of the internet. Nostalgia. David,
Those were the days.
Dave, no matter what you say, your appearance on this show is kind, even though it's transactional, and I appreciate your presence on it. We will talk to you next week.